another one of the murder quests that you have to do. They give you a whole bunch, but you only have to do, I think, 2 of them.
Yep.
So
Two
that's
of them,
nice.
and then you start the main, like, killing the Emperor quest line. Okay. Gonna do a horse tilt. Yes, this is a small horse tilt. I think we might have our first crash. No, wait.
Oh my god.
Not quite.
Not quite. Well, one thing I do want to say is that for all of you people who are worried about Mercurio's heart, do recall that we are having a marriage run later on.
Mercurio might be okay in the end.
Okay.
It's actually like quick loading when you're doing a tilt is actually pretty dangerous and it's pretty likely to crash. So I'm surprised that it hasn't yet.
Mm-hmm.
I bet my run's gonna crash like 15 times. Like
Where
0 crashes over like 5 hours, and then like 15 crashes in 5 minutes.
She might be in her house. I don't know.
Oh, that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So he's one of the people he's supposed to kill for the Dark Brotherhood is this minor lady over here.
No one saw anything.
Yeah, all right. Nobody saw.
Normally you will have to kill like 5 guards or something. Okay, here we go.
We need to talk. Look, if the night... And I think... So go. Go to Vollenrood. It's a crypt. Pretty far.
Yeah, funnily enough, you get 40 bounty for assaulting somebody and then 1,000 for killing them. But also punching a horse, oddly enough, you get 40, but then plus an extra 5. So punching a horse is actually a bigger offense than punching a person, which I always appreciate.
I didn't realize that. Okay, well, that is not the...
Oh, you discovered Corvin instead of...
That's fine, we can do another tilt. All these ruins look the same.
Yeah, so he actually wants to go to a place that is kind of cool, but only the first area of it, because that's where Amand Motier is. And he is the one who sets in motion the plan to kill the Emperor. And
right into the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll notice right there that he loaded the quick save from the menu, because if you die and then hit quick load, you're most likely going to crash. But we also might be in an infinite loading screen.
Yep, this is a crash,
guys. We did it.
Yep, it happened.
I mean, it didn't crash. It just stayed in a loading screen forever.
That's crash.
Oh, now it's saying Skyrim is not responding. Okay,
okay.
That's a crash.
There you go. There's the beautiful image for you.
Perfect.
Game crashed.
Okay.
Press F, ooh.
Let's try this again.
Don't do it, Skyrim.
So we have our first real crash.
All right.
The game was teasing us for a while.
Here we go.
It did way better than usual, so good job, Skyrim. Good job. Sometimes it does just work.
Oh yeah, my live split crashed.
What?
By the almighty devour.
So it took something else down with it. Of
Skyrim was
course it
angry.
did.
Yeah, the
Oh wonder. So much
yeah, the
is
auto
there.
splitter is broken, so
The seal
now
of
my
Valor.
timer's stuck at 58 minutes.
World record. Oh no, the skeleton. This area is the worst because the skeleton can block your way, but also there's like a sword sticking out that blocks half that
Yeah.
hallway somehow.
Yeah, they have like there's a dead skeleton and then the skeleton that is still animated. And the dead skeleton has an ancient Northern battle axe just kind of stuck in it with the handle poking out in an annoying way.
You're back. You're joking. What's this?
Oh, I should have
To kill.
gotten
As a
to
matter of
Labyrinthian
fact,
as well,
no.
because that's
don't
actually
know
where
it.
I need to go next.
You think I... But this
Oh
is
well,
all
more
so much
tilts.
to... I'm thinking... give me the letter. Delvin Mallory and the...
We're doing it live, everyone.
Oh. Just get this. Okay,
Yeah, it
so
can be-
there's two major horse tilt clips in the run that I'll have to do, and this is going to be the first of the two hard ones, so hopefully I can land.
it can be pretty difficult figuring out where you're going in these areas. So like using the map marker kind of helps a lot in some cases, especially when you have to like do these on the fly, not from the usual spot you do them from.
Yeah, and you may have noticed him go into first person there. That immediately kills your tilt speed if you ever do that. So that's a good way to stop if you're just trying to get to a place.
Yeah, we actually we needed the height there because we needed to get into the like back trapdoor of Labyrinthian, and then we're gonna do a little tilt clip here and just go straight to the ending because this is a pretty long dungeon.
Yeah, the tilt clip here is actually important because if you just do a normal clip, which I have tried just in my casual play, you can get out of bounds here, but you'll just kind of fall to an area below the map because there's terrain down there for some reason. But the tilt clip gives you enough speed to get actually to an area where you can do things besides just walk below the map.
That clip did not work.
Or that can happen.
I mean, you can just do a normal clip. You just have to do a bunch of running to get to the other area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't manage to find an area, a way to get that in bounds when I tried it, so I guess that's good to.
Yeah, we did that in our old all guilds, the original all guild run. Oh. Sometimes you're just like somewhere else after you go through these areas.
I have to make sure I land in the right spot, otherwise it's bad. Okay, I need to go there, so it's right here. Here we go.
This is a boss fight that you have to do at some point for one of the quest lines. I think that is-
Mage's
Yeah, it's Mage's Guild. It's the penultimate boss, essentially. And then there's a fight after that. Then you finally fight
Ancano is way harder sometimes.
This guy's supposed to have his big bubble that protects him, but you can just kind of walk up and just kill him anyway.
Yeah, the other way is obviously you dispel it by killing the 2 mages near there.
Yeah, so we got some sort of MacGuffin for the end of the Mages Guild questline.
Now we have the Eye and Staff of Magnus. Power! Or something.
Unlimited power?
Well, we do
wait,
have
no, that
those
was the
scrolls.
chain lightning.
Yeah, we do have those scrolls of chain lightning, so we kind of have that anyway.
And now we're going to do both the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood quest lines at the same time here. Okay.
I don't know. They'd skin us alive if they knew we were doing this.
So when's a good time coming up, Kronos, for the break?
Never should have come here.
Let's see. Probably once I finish this set right here.
Keep your eyes open. I'm not sure what to expect when we enter the system.
Yeah, you're coming down in here to like confront the rest of the Thieves Guild about how the dude betrayed you, apparently, even though you didn't see any of it. But this door's locked, but conveniently, what's his face, Brynjolf, just like happens to walk through here at this point in the quest, so he opens the door for you, and you can get in. And then when you go into this back area, you're not technically supposed to be here, so these people like run at you and start yelling at you, including Brynjolf. But you can just like leave and wait out the cutscene, so you don't have to sit there, because if you sat there, they would eventually attack you.
So this is door skipping dialogue. It's gonna be here for a while.
Yeah, this is a bit of a long cutscene.
I assume every time you're going out and back in the door to skip the dialogue, it's also resetting your timer for them attacking you?
Yep.
It takes like, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds before they attack you, so we could stay in there for a little bit. But it's just faster to go in and out like this to skip all the dialogue.
But yeah, a good time for a break would be at the next load warp.
Right.
Which is at Nocturnal, which is the
Just let me know
next
when.
quest. Okay. Okay.
Oh, well, but let's.
So you finish the cutscene and Delvin just appears right here.
Wait here.
Yeah, Delvin goes back to his spot in the Ragged Flagon, and he's obviously needed for something in the Dark Brotherhood, so you're able to do 2 things here.
Where did he go? Okay.
That's... Huh. So you can see the people are chasing him right there.
Wait, what?
I think he's out of bounds.
Okay.
I think you just have to leave and then come back again.
Oh boy.
Because that's a thing that can happen. He's supposed to be right behind that table, but sometimes he's like too far behind the table and he's out of bounds.
This is what
You might have
There
to
we go.
leave entirely.
this is what you meant by sometimes Skyrim just
Let's
does
go.
weird stuff.
Look, before I help,
Yeah,
Yep.
anything else? What? Was there anything
it's
else?
pretty
you
good.
told me?
I also
I'm
like
going to
how
start getting attacked right here as well.
yeah,
I need you
he
to
like
break
talks
it.
to you normally about the quest, and as
never
soon as you
says
finish,
that.
he's just like, "Wait a minute, you're not supposed to be here,"
Just find a way in. Get the information and leave. You have permission to kill.
and everybody just tries to murder you.
Fortunately, you can just leave right here.
Yeah.
Some
Now we
more
have that
parkour.
Ah, yes. So this is you have to break into Mercer's house here. You can get in through the back door right to where the quest marker is, but the quest doesn't update until you go through this top door, which is really frustrating. So you actually have to like walk in here, and then you're like most of the way to where you need to be. So you might as well just like clip down.
Oh, my game crashed.
All right, that's 2.
Now we're meeting our quota.
Now we're on pace. This is live.
Oh, that was perfect.
Nice. Yeah, so you can get up and you can pick up this map earlier, but it doesn't do anything. And then when you get the quest, it'll just be soft lock because you won't be able to pick up the map. It's frustrating.
Yeah, you have to do things in the sequence sometimes. Other times you don't, just all depending on how whoever was programming the
Well,
quest logic programmed one
so-
thing or another
No.
in the sequence.
Leo, I want you to
Wait,
explain
what?
to them the error.
Brynjolf. It's not the right.
We scoured. Any luck on your end? Sure. If he gets his hands on
He
it.
just felt like talking
We-
about something else
I've
for a little bit.
spoken. Quickly. We have no time to lose.
I don't have any business with
Carlia said it was
Brynjolf, the time has
Aye.
come to decide no.
Yeah. I think now people are okay with you. They no longer get mad.
Yeah, so we just waited to start that cutscene of dialogue, and now we're going to Nightingale Hall.
Also, getting to the end of the Thieves Guild quest, there's
We've
only
come to seek
2
the
after this,
following
so there's a big dungeon dive, which,
this way.
well, you can probably guess what's going to happen with that. And then there's another big dungeon dive. And yeah,
So this is night.
This is the
Some
big
must
late
be
quest line lore dump, as there always is.
I'm trying to understand.
Fortunately, we can skip a lot of the dialogue.
This isn't about
This has a section where you go talk to whatever her name is, the shadow demon lady, and she's a disembodied voice, and like most disembodied voices, you can't really skip her dialogue, but we can just kind of skip over
I think
most of the
Let's see
cutscene
what she's on about.
entirely, which is nice.
That took a while.
and now you finally have armor equipped because it's automatically equipped.
Yeah, we've been running around in like the
Okay, lass.
Right,
basic.
no,
Whoa then.
No,
You just
it-
have to
it's-
equip it for the quest.
yeah,
right?
that's right. It doesn't automatically equip it; just gives you that you have to
Short
equip
of
it.
it.
But yeah, before this, no armor.
Aye. There's a
We've been running around in rags for the entire run.
after I open the gate. Please stand.
This is enough to make your head
Okay,
spin.
so normally there's a super long cutscene here with Nocturnal,
That's right.
but we're going to skip it. Just by doing that.
Yeah. You just kind of piss off Carlia
Now that you've
and
transacted,
shoot her, and the game's just like, hold on, this cutscene can't happen right now,
or
and it just
once
skips
you
over it
realise
entirely.
that, although it
And then because
as time passed, our love
she's like, you're not supposed to hate each other,
Brynjolf has some business to discuss.
pretty much forgiven him.
Our life, thanks to you. As a result, I'm good at what I've never been one to lead. Well, we
So
have
did
a
that
bit
mission
of an edge,
crash? Everybody in
and
chat
it's
was saying it
until
crashed.
then. I've been
Yeah, it-
Oh, I was
It
searching
has.
something but didn't see it.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself, lad.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
well,
have
the
2
counter's
now.
been updated.
Okay, so here's the load warp. So I guess once I do this, then we should be good for
Okay,
a break
sounds good.
then. Okay, so take a break now.
All right. So one of the things we've been doing on Hotfix, just for people who are not aware, is we've been taking wellness breaks in some of our longer runs, just to encourage people to get up, get some water, stretch, take care of yourselves. So we're gonna do that. We're all gonna get some water, take a quick break, and then we'll be back in a few minutes with the rest of this run. I should probably pause the timer. There we go. And we'll be back with the rest of all guilds in just a few minutes.
How long's the break?
There's
All right, everyone, and welcome back to the Community Spotlight. We had a little bit of an extended break there, but Cronus asked for 2 more minutes in chat, so we had to oblige. And we are going to be continuing with the rest of all guilds here in just a few moments. But as a quick reminder for everyone who stuck with us, thank you very much. Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your subscriptions and bits, and we would appreciate it if you would consider subscribing. But are you ready to get going again, Cronus?
Yeah. Okay. So, 3, 2, 1, start. Okay.
We just had a little extra wellness there.
Yeah.
Gotta take care of yourself.
I find now that I'm working from home all the day, I don't like get up and walk ever, and it's not great.
I'm just glad I have a treadmill. Like, that keeps me going.
I'm glad I have Ring Fit Adventure.
You can't buy it anymore. It's just like out of stock everywhere.
No. I could sell it for like millions of dollars or something though.
Okay.
Yeah. Now he's heading to the Dwemer ruin here, Erkingthand, and that is.
I might die.
Yeah, this is
Oh.
you're a little low on health here.
It's fine. You
Fall
had
damage is a thing.
enough HP.
That's all you
need
need.
to get all your
Alright,
health
that's all you
back.
need.
But yeah, this is the next place in the Thieves Guild quest. It's where you're chasing Mercer Frey in order to get the skeleton key back from him. So, not much left in that. Of course, there's a big dungeon dive here, so we're obviously going to make.
Oh
our
wow,
way
that
through
was
here.
actually a perfect tilt.
Nice.
Yeah. Obviously, making our way through here in the perfectly intended way. Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary here whatsoever.
Brynjolf, we have to catch up to him before it's too late.
I'll entertain.
Okay.
Also, shout out to these alleged master thieves who hit every trap in existence along the way, if you do it normally.
Now we're going to have a lot of fun here because normally, well, oh, okay, that didn't work. But normally when you do this quest line, you're going to have to go chase Mercer Frey, and you have to do all these bunch of puzzles and stuff, and then eventually kill him and escape like everything, and it's super long. There's like even an extended cutscene as well. So we're going to skip all that. So right here, Mercer Frey is actually right here. Hello. And we're
Hello,
just going
Mercer.
to
Goodbye, Mercer.
pickpocket his skeleton key and just load warp out of there.
So, yeah, some of this stuff is just like, okay, how much can we break the sequence with the quest still working? And in this case, fortunately, really all you need is the skeleton.
Yeah. You skip like multiple minutes of like cutscene and stuff on top of all of the dungeon delving, so
However,
That's,
because
pretty nice.
we load warped out of there, we need to go back to the exit, which is
yeah.
Water Cave, and we have to
Yep.
hit an end trigger of
This
like
place is coming
escaping.
down.
And you can see Carlia and Brynjolf are with me right now,
Let's get
and
on
they're
this.
like, we need to get out of there.
Yeah, they're still like hyped about taking down Mercer, which we definitely did.
Mhm. And yeah, in here, Bronzewater Cave. This is where you.
What is my bucket?
Let's get out of here before we end up.
Hello?
I
I can't pick it up. It's okay.
Lost its
wait,
collision.
what?
It's
Is
ghost
it-
tilting.
think it got displaced and was showing as being there, even though it wasn't. I'm not entirely sure, but I've had that happen to objects.
This coming down. Let's
Yeah,
go.
that's pretty rare though.
This place is coming down. Let's get out of
Okay. I shouldn't
So you
use a
just mentioned
basket.
This place is coming down.
save warping,
Get out of here.
and it's been a
Go
while
ahead.
since you explained that. Do you want to explain that for
This
people who
place
just
is
tuned in?
coming down. Let's get out of here. This
Yeah,
place is coming
so
down. Let's get out of here.
effectively what you do for load warping or save warping, or we usually call it load warping, but it doesn't really matter. Effectively, you pause the game as soon as you walk into a load trigger, and that triggers the load trigger, but then it pauses the game, obviously. And you can quit out to the main menu, and then load another save. It'll load that save, and then once
Here we
it's
go.
loaded in, it'll trigger the load trigger, or trigger the load trigger that you paused. So it'll take the character that you loaded and put them where you just were on another save.
The only way to bring it back.
And we mainly do that just
There's a
to
consequence.
leave areas.
Brynjol.
Yeah,
I'm
and
afraid
there
you
he
won't
just
face
needed
the
to get
Take this. I've had
into
this
the
for
area
almost
that is
100
currently
times.
blocked off
And it's
because
never
he didn't hit all the triggers. To hit one of those triggers, which would let him talk to Carlia, end that quest, and start the final one for the Thieves Guild, which is to return the skeleton key that he got back from Mercer Frey to the Twilight Sepulchre.
Yeah, this is a thing that Skyrim does a lot, where if you come to a quest area without the quest, it'll just like have a wall where there's supposed to be a pathway. So that's in that case there.
Good. You're back.
There's just a big wall that you have to clip through because normally you just
Was
be
Mallory
running
going
out
to
the
be
other way through a
split?
hallway,
Now then, well, oh yeah, and
which is really strange to think about.
Her the wedding.
It's just like walls
Leave-
appearing and
now
disappearing
go.
at different
I'll give
times.
My best to the bride.
All right, so now we're gonna go to another wedding,
What? Okay.
not our own this time.
I was about to say, don't you dare do that to Mercurio again.
Mercurio's safe. Don't worry.
Yeah, this is a marriage between Vittoria Vici and what's the guy's first name? I can't remember his first
I
name.
don't know.
But, like, it's
Some random
supposed to
dude
be
that
like-
dies. Don't worry.
Somebody
supposed-
unimportant.
it's supposed to be this big thing of like, hey, this Imperial family and this Stormcloak family are getting married. Maybe there's a hope for peace in our time. Oh, Asgar's Snowflake, that's right. So instead, that happens.
You just kind of
Don't worry, this
blow
is
the
fast.
wedding party away. The
Yeah.
other option is to like basically run all the way out of the city, and that's a little bit slow. So since we have chain lightning,
So
we
just
make
killing
use of it.
everybody is faster? Why?
Yep.
Because murder's fast. Always murder,
Please
kids. Only in
Yeah.
the name of speed.
Let's see his
Uh-huh.
plans. With
Only
Vici
if it's fast, and in that case, it is fast.
Now then,
Although I do like the
time to
thing
proceed
of
to the next step.
dropping the statue from on top onto their heads. That's the kind of creative way to kill them. I don't think they were quite as creative with some of the unique ways to get kills in the Dark Brotherhood quest here as they were in Oblivion.
Okay.
There's
Here we
still
go.
some good ones, and that one's good.
You are to be a set. Go. Oh, and to earn your bonus, do not kill Gaius Morrow and Dragon.
I'm sorry, I'm going to kill Gaius Morrow at Dragon Bridge, so
Yes, Astrid failed to
Yeah.
mention I'm her husband.
no bonuses. Bonuses take way too much time.
Yeah, bonuses are like for the one he just did. It's you have to kill them while the bride is giving her speech. So that's when they walk up to the underneath the statue that you can drop on their heads. But it takes like a minute or something of just waiting for them to go to that point, or for killing another one, like for killing what's his name in whoever ruins that he did really early on, before he even talked to the person who wanted that guy dead. The if you kill him first, like you can't even get the credit for the extra person that she wants you to kill as a bonus. And like even if you kill both of them, it's kind of weird like that. Scripting in this game is kind of all over the place.
I just have to say that I appreciate the puns that have been flying around in chat.
I do as well. Like, someone said marriage has lost its spark, except that we kind of gave it all the sparks.
damn it.
So,
Just remember, no disintegrations.
Marrow is dead.
Yeah, that's actually a perk, and you do not have that perk because you don't level up destruction in this game, so you don't turn them into piles of dust when you kill them with electricity.
I want, but first, after the attack, let me know the minute you find something.
Okay, here we go. Now we grab this journal, and now we're going to head off to kill Cicero. If I could go the right way.
Another thing that I can say that keeps coming up is if it seems like there are lag spikes where the game kind of pauses for a little bit, if you look up at the top, you'll often see quick saving and loading there. That's because quick saving and quick loading saves very small amounts of in-game time in a lot of places. So if there's a little bit of a stutter there, then that's probably why.
We should have a save counter built into the live split plugin just to see how many times you save in a category like this.
Yeah,
it'll be in the hundreds.
It'll be a
would
lot.
Interesting.
It skips dialogue. It skips these fade-ins during loads.
You use it for like horse tilts, ghost tilts.
Use it for tilting. Use it for infinite sprint.
Did you mention the ghost more thing? The ghost like
What, sorry? Yeah, the ghost tilting.
That'll be pretty much just relevant again in the next run.
Oh, just
Yeah.
We're not going to do it anymore.
Different ways to use quick saving and quick loading for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are a lot of ways to break this game. Some of them are things you can do just kind of casually, like a bucket clip is just something you try until it works for you. But pretty much anything involving tilts or some of the other tricks, like using marriage to give yourself control when you've lost it, things like that are not quite so easy to do in a casual playthrough.
Did that bandit just hit you with an arrow mid-tilt?
It's a hunter, but yes.
It's the person you stole the horse from, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a hunter and there's bandits there. So
yeah,
on the way from Helden, there's a group of bandits that you actually want to be there because they make the hunter get off the horse.
Yeah. It's just kind of a scripted thing. Hunter
went
riding
the wrong
horse
way.
and the bandits.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just kind of the setup there. There are pretty much always arrows flying, and in my experience, the hunter and bandits.
Where am I going? Okay.
They all like to focus on you, but I think the hunter always has a bow, but I don't know about the bandits. I don't remember the exact grouping that spawns there.
I think they also do.
I failed the tilt, so I have to kind of run through.
I can't help you. I can't remember the way to go on this.
This is the correct way.
Yeah, it's just to the right here.
Yeah, he's running through this area in order to get to Cicero because plot. And Cicero, you can spare him or kill him. There is dialogue later if you spare him, so he dies.
No, you just kill him because it's faster than talking to him.
You can leave before the later dialogue triggers, so you kill him just because it's slightly faster than mashing through his dialogue. I always liked how the army of ghosts flood into the room after you kill him.
Yeah.
At least we didn't break his heart.
And now that this Cicero, there's just have you Festus has been spearheading this part of the assassination.
Okay, Festus, are you sleeping or are you here making potions or enchanting? Here you are.
There you But first, you'll need to learn. Don't be so.
I think this is the second last quest that we're getting into. Of the
There's
assassination thing.
Couple more, I think. There's one more.
Yeah, there's this one, which is the first attempt at the Emperor's life. In order to do that, you need to kill the gourmet
Yeah.
and take his place because you're supposed to poison the Emperor. Then spoilers, but it's going to come up pretty quickly. It doesn't work. The Emperor was suspicious, and you kill a double of his instead. Then you get cornered, and they try to capture you, and they go and try to take out the Brotherhood, and then you finally get one more chance at the Emperor after that. And that one is the final quest where you actually kill the Emperor.
So it's basically the end.
It's pretty close. Here he's talking to someone who idolizes the gourmet in order to find out who the gourmet actually is. And hey, it's an orc at this inn right by Bronzewater Cave. Okay. Now you let me go, right?
I needed to go through that last slide. Rip.
Now, you.
Yeah, how far you have to get in dialogues is also annoyingly inconsistent. Sometimes you just like have to hit the first line and then tab out and leave. Sometimes you have to go all the way through every line. Sometimes you can like skip certain lines. Yeah, it's annoying.
Paying the bounty here because sometimes it's the fastest way to go. That took him outside, so fast travel is good.
Okay. Inside, that's annoying. I could wait an hour, I guess. That might be better. Yeah, we'll just do that.
So yeah,
Just wait until he's outside.
Back at this inn, you need to kill him and then hide the body, and it's just easier to do when he's outside because he likes to go out and wait, just kind of look out at the lake here, and that makes the hiding the body
Unless
quicker.
he doesn't want to come out.
This game is consistent.
Here we go.
Always works.
Eventually.
Now he's here.
Whatever it is.
You just kind of blast him with
I accidentally completed the quest, I think. Or like hit the body.
Yeah, one of the things with those spells is that they can, like, when you overkill an enemy, they can go flying a bit. And so that just puts them in the water, and we're good.
Oh! I forgot. I need to grab the writ of passage.
Oh,
And
yeah.
now his body's in the water. Oh no.
Now you gotta go swimming.
You should still have the autosave from when you first left. Okay, but fortunately the quest marker still points to him. The body is still there.
It's not a big lake that you blasted him into.
Yeah, you go halfway across Skyrim, and then you're like, oh crap, I forgot that.
It's a good thing he didn't like clip into the mountain and get launched out somewhere.
Imagine if that happened. I would have to reload everything. Ooh, that would be rough. Okay.
He also doesn't have autosaves on because they very slightly slow down the game.
And in the long runs, it's really significant. It can be like minutes. I think.
There are a ton of load screens in the game.
Especially for my computer.
And you're quick saving and quick loading the whole time. But I do want to mention the exact thing that he's doing with the scrolls. Like, he's not even casting a spell, he's using a scroll that he used an inventory glitch, which can also allow you to sell a shopkeeper's inventory to themselves.
You'll gain
He's using that, he used that on a container, basically, to equip an item and then have it not be in his inventory. So he has Scroll of Chain Lightning on each of his hands, but he doesn't have one in his inventory. So when the game tries to decrement the number that he has, it just fails and lets him keep using it. And since he's level 1, all the enemies are really weak.
By the way, fast traveling into going to jail that's another upside about killing everyone in Solitude.
Yeah, you still have a bounty from all of that murder you did. We do have a bunch of money from all the contracts, but we don't have that much money. So we have to just go to jail, but going to jail is like very slightly slower than paying off a bounty. because you can just
So
immediately
if you
sleep.
don't have enough money, you just go to jail, and then
Not another
it's not that big of a deal.
gourmet.
Yep.
It's just you're a high. The emperor, but the
Gotta have the chef's
base
hat.
broth is already
Also,
prepared.
shoutouts to one
Carrots?
of the
What
sillier
next?
categories.
Of course.
There are tons
a
of silly
giant
categories
I-
in Skyrim.
I chose the wrong
But,
dialogue.
sorry. I have excellent. And if I may, I'll carry the stew pot.
Perfect.
and lead
This
the
is a
way out
perfect
to
stew.
the dining.
By the way, no matter what you put inside the soup, the emperor will say it's good. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, so there's actually a category called Master Chef, where you have to get a chef's tunic, a chef's hat, and cook a bunch of stuff, basically.
Only the best of categories. Alright, there's the fake emperor. And now we just need to leave.
Move along.
Okay. Hello there.
Huh.
You're not normal either.
Yeah, you can't fast travel right now because like everybody is after you, and if you go forward, there's like a cutscene. But instead, we can just load warp out and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, and that skips Morrow, the guy who you killed his father or son. I forget whether you killed the son or the father first, but you, I think it's the father you kill.
Well,
Anyway,
the father
you anyway, he tells you, hey, you didn't. Anyway, he tells you, hey, you didn't. You're not gonna leave here, and all your friends. You're not gonna leave here to die. Now it's time to go back to the sanctuary since we escaped one way or another, and head over there.
Supposed to drown the guy. You're supposed to do it with the pier, like the big
Okay,
set
so
piece.
now
There's
we're
like a
going
big
to
slow motion
head
thing
back.
and stuff. But you can just drown him anywhere and it's fine. Anyway, all that talk about PCJ replays and stuff, I just got lucky
Kill
and found a bike
everyone
anyway.
inside here.
Don't matter. So this is the mission
Hopefully
where I
this is
would
soft
want
lock.
the.
Shouldn't soft.
This is the mission where I would
Would
desperately.
soft lock count as a crash?
One of these cool.
We need to Todd all disappear.
Like it's kind of the same spirit of things with the game just failing to do things properly, but it's not actually a crash. Soft bugs you can just reload and try it again.
Why?
Yeah,
They do that.
that is the best part of the chain lightning. Before when we did this with flames, it was uninteresting. People just fell over.
There's just something comical about that one guy in particular flying up and left out of the frame of the camera.
Just need a build on the screen to go along with it,
My
right?
people need me.
Tá ligado? Não precisa ser muita
So
pressão.
yeah, you
Esse
ride
ritmo
out the
aqui,
fire
assim,
in
ó.
here, then there's little thing with
Imagina 5 minutos assim, ó.
the acid thing, like
Não há quem
also
atenção,
you
dizia,
out
cara.
lá vem o outro conselheiro.
Se você fizer bem feito esses 5 minutos,
Uh,
depois ela vai fazer
you
um
have to
vídeo
go to that
daquela.
ruin to talk to. Like this time. Then he's
Imagina
like,
as
okay,
pessoas
yeah,
que
you can
ouvem na
still kill the
televisão,
emperor
tá a
quick,
família na sala,
which
e
you
uma
can wait
pessoa
months and
fazendo
get.
Eles não
isso.
sabem, tô batendo palma, tá ligado? Não precisa ser muito,
Like Nazir is
muita
still knocked
pressão.
down.
Nesse ritmo aqui, assim, ó.
Esse Gustavo.
That's the state he was
de
in
atenção
when
do dia, cara.
Ah lá, lá
you
vem o
left.
outro conselheiro.
Se fizer bem feito esses 5 minutos, depois ela vai fazer, vai jogar, vai tirar seu
She's just fine.
vai comer bolacha
She's
fofinho por
definitely not
bom
close to
tempo.
dying.
Okay.
Die midway through dialogue.
Não era nem nativa, era outro nome.
Era um suco pros
Same
caras colocarem, você vai ter
sometimes.
câncer.
A gente pagava acho que 70 centavos.
What are you
no
doing?
suco.
Why are you down?
Não era
Why are you
o outro sistema.
Não, era 70 centavos uma
What
garrafa.
if
Ela vai fazer
Nazir's
isso
life
por
force
você.
would you-
E a bolacha era 60 centavos o pacote.
She didn't take his life force. She just took his ability to stand.
Yeah, there's Shadowmere. Bye, Shadowmere. We never use you.
Our contract. Emperor Titus Bede II.
This game.
Yeah,
Remember what I said earlier that every single time you open it, something new and
Yes.
stupid happens?
I was waiting for
Not
that
wrong.
moment in this run.
There you
Uh,
Speak with Amon Model at the Bannered Mare in Whiterun.
Oh yeah,
I guess
companion.
Yor is outside.
The true
Okay, that's
Emperor's
good.
location.
Oh, he's already
Not now. The
waiting right there.
So, oh yeah, the companions quest line is a thing, right? So, yeah, the Underforge at night.
Inform Nazir.
Gonna learn, hey, everyone in the circle is a werewolf.
long time.
Yeah, the reason we had to
Yep.
double hand in the quest and then talk to Skiara with the correct dialogue is because if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to enter the Underforge here, and we would just be soft locked.
Are you prepared to join your... Very well.
My
Speak
submission
Malolo,
was
yay.
accepted to.
Oh, I was gonna tell you later.
Spoilers.
Yeah, the games list is up on the website. I was gonna tell you between games.
Oh, what the heck? Wait,
Wait,
what?
what?
What? Wait. What? What? Wait. What? What was that?
You were
What?
in-
What happened?
The silver.
This game is
Lead on. Yours already scouted.
okay.
Oh my god. Remember how I said every time you open it, two stupid things
Wait a
happen?
minute. You didn't say two before.
It just okay. The game
Oh,
crashed.
the game crashed? Okay, let me add another one.
Yeah, that's another for the counter.
Oh my god. Yeah, normally when you turn into a werewolf there, you just spawn outside the Underforge and you just like walk to the left and wait. But for some reason Kronos was in space or something. Oh my god.
That was so weird. Okay. That was. I've never seen that before. Like the Astrid thing, I've seen like twice or something, but that was
Yeah.
just dumb. Okay, Azir's like here or something.
He's still crawling around somewhere.
He's not crawling. Okay.
Okay.
What?
If you
Well,
still.
Amon Motier? You mean there's still a chance? Listen, and come back with a barrel full of gold, huh? That bet, my girl?
Okay. Now we go this way, I think, and west. Okay.
So is
So,
there an actual reason why you had to go through the werewolf thing?
yes, because if you don't, the Underforge is really bugged, and like quests don't function properly, and it's really annoying.
Great. Alright, we're naked again. Unfortunately, we lose the chef's hat.
No,
Come on,
not the chef's
too
hat.
high.
Alright, you got it. This is a really annoying thing with the tilts where you have to have the right height in order to discover things. So when you're ghost tilting, you might be too low because you're under the map. And then when you're normal tilting, you might be too high because you rode up a mountain somewhere.
Yeah, so in the same general area are the Twilight Sepulchre and the Glenmoral Coven's Cave here. He would have liked to tilt a bit farther towards this, but
Yeah.
he lost a lot of speed trying to discover the Twilight Sepulchre.
This is fine. It's not much longer.
Yeah, it's just up here.
Okay, so this is the hardest part of this run, so it might take a couple tries.
This is like actually a really difficult trick. So this is a place that you go to much later on in the companion's quest line. You're supposed to come in here and kill some like witches, hags, whatever they're called, and then take their heads. And they don't spawn in, I don't think, until you have the actual quest line, or they don't drop the item. One of the two.
Basket, please, just cooperate.
It turns out there's actually a small room out of bounds that has like 6 of the heads in there. And if you can get in there and pick one up, it'll just start the quest at that
basket
point.
just fall through the floor? Oh.
No, I picked it up by accident.
The way it kind of interacted with the collision when you picked it up made it look like it went straight through the floor.
Yeah, so to get into this room that's just out of bounds, like it's not close to anything, so you basically have to tilt clip out of this, or tilt clip through this wall, just get a little bit forwards, and then kill the tilt speed by going into first person, and then the room's a bunch below you, so if you just drop, you'll die. So you have to look down, drop a piece of clothing under your feet so it buffers your fall, and then see that he waited too long to buffer the fall and just died to the fall damage to the item. So you have to basically buffer your way down onto the little thing. You also can't quite see the room itself to tell where you are. You can just see a giant square around it. So trying to like...
I got it.
Nice. Okay, that is incredibly difficult.
Okay. That was the scariest part of the run, so I am happy that I got that. That was only third try. Nice.
You have to have a very specific amount of speed, so you go the right distance forward, and then you have to have like really fast timing and dropping stuff. So that's good that that's behind us.
By the way, people are wondering about a Dawn Guard category. I've actually ran Dawn Guard, but there isn't a category on speedrun.com. My run was like 2 hours.
Yeah.
That was probably when I first started running the game, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't think there's any major skips for that.
Yeah.
Because there's just the way they construct the quest just doesn't really work for me.
Yeah, it's not the best speedrun. Also, the dialogue is really annoying to skip.
Where have you...
Okay. So we start that quest, and then we're going to head over to Amon Motir. Get this last Dark Brotherhood quest thing.
Just stoke the fire.
You must
The
white one is terrible.
supremely competent to go walk.
What is it? Please, you mustn't. You mean, why, this is the Emperor. If you can get on board that ship, kill Titus Mead the
Ayla, out of the way!
I will reveal the location of the
Oh my god. Yeah.
I have to break my sprint speed for that. That's annoying. Okay.
Oh my god.
I think you might have been able to get her out of the way by closing the doors and opening them, but that might
Maybe.
not have.
She might have also just stood there and let them close inside of her.
That happens too. Like, sometimes they knock the character out of the way, sometimes not. Sometimes they just put them even more perfectly in the way.
I wonder if I can actually get this tilt. You can get this tilt so that you board the ship by the deck, which is really difficult. Like, you have to land basically perfectly. I've done it like twice or something.
So first try easy right now.
No. That's fine.
Water
This
is
just
also
requires
extremely annoying. Whenever you're tilting and you like go into water, usually it like shoves you backwards instead of forwards, unless you're right at the very top of the water. So trying to like use water where you touch down to like break your fall and then go forwards and keep going with your tilt is really annoying.
And as you can see there, these tricky locks and lack of lockpicks aren't even a concern because he still has the skeleton.
Yeah, even though this is a master lock, it's like a mild annoyance.
Yeah, generally you're supposed to grab a key, but that takes a lot of time. Oh,
There's the
where's
Emperor.
my scroll?
Well,
Okay.
I mean, fortunately, this guy dies real quick.
That normally okay. Well, I'm going. Okay, it should still be fine. I just have to. Okay. Rerouting on the fly. I think it has to do with that weird thing that happened, becoming a werewolf. That shouldn't have happened.
You
might be.
You could go and re-equip it when you go fight what's his
Yeah.
face. So it's not. Fortunately, the scroll is still there in the barrel in the Mage's College, so it's not too big of a deal.
Yep.
And I
Yeah,
think that's
so-
the only fight that like actually matters.
There's that.
Not there yet. I need to go to Driftshade Refuge. Did I discover it? Yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say like there is fighting in the companions quest line, but it's like not really as relevant as you would.
Yeah, you also get the big axe, so you could just use that.
The thing is, like, the next enemy I'm going to fight is at the College of Winterhold, so it's not really important. I can just grab the scroll.
Time to end this little game.
I think this is the last. No, there's one more clip after this. Ow.
Another good old tilt clip. The tilt clips are really nice because when you're able to do them, you kind of don't really have to care about your speed or anything. You just go fast and it'll work out.
Just go fast in a general direction.
Yeah. As long as there's an item somewhere in front of you, it should just work. Yeah, these are the shards of Wuthrad, which is the MacGuffin for the companions.
I like how you went to the third person there just in time for the arrow to fly right into your shoulder.
Yeah, ignoring combat happens a lot.
Yeah, since we're playing on easiest, it takes a lot to actually die. Like, there's only a few fights in the game that are actually deadly, and we can do stuff like dupe the scroll to just make them trivial.
And now we're basically at the end of every single quest line. So, yeah. So now, just like the last quest for each of the guilds here.
Which is kind of nice that it works out like that. You don't
So
finish
we go
one
there-
like hours earlier.
Yeah, we go there to start the cutscene, and we're just going to skip like that entire ceremony to talk to Amon Motir.
Welcome. Let me know if you want
This is the
anything.
local
No.
favorite and
I think I got
walking
the
first.
first.
Aha! You're my friend. But you're paying.
Yeah, this has
Now please
a
go.
long ceremony like of burning somebody, but we can just walk away and then come back and it's over.
Yeah, Codlac Whitemane, the guy whose apple pie you tried to steal way back, he's dead, so they're mourning him, but we have more important things to do.
I wonder if fast traveling is faster, or just walking.
Members of
Don't know. They're about the same.
Do you have? I'll need to prepare them for mount. Don't get. Oh, there's another. I'm not sure I'm the best. Thank you. I'll be here.
Okay, so now we're going to grab this fragment, and we're going to complete the Companions quest line. I think for second after we do the Dark Brotherhood here. Actually, that means yeah, I should just switch up the order. Where am I going? It's here.
That cabinet's really weird. It takes forever for like the open animation, and whenever you're looting something, you can just like use it and then run away, and whenever the animation finishes, it'll open up the inventory. So since that one is so long, you can like get halfway out of the building before it actually pops up. And every time it's just like, did I actually hit it?
Oh, there you are, down here. Haha, stop running away from me.
He's trying to go home to go to bed, I think. But yeah, sometimes NPCs just walk weird places.
Skip through another little cutscene by going in and out again. And then we'll get the axe. And the axe means we can finish the companions.
Yeah, we're going to go finish the Dark Brotherhood first. All we do is collect the money and then return back home to wherever the Dawnstar Sanctuary is.
Yeah, we already beat the final boss by punching him in the face instead of zapping him. So, just grab a cool like 10, 20k, something like that. Not that we have any use for money at this point.
And even if you did, money is actually fairly easy to come by in this game if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, there was the vendor glitch we did right at the start, where you sell vendors' inventory to themselves to take all their money. Which we didn't really need all that much money, because in this run you get a whole bunch from the Brotherhood contracts. But if we need even more money, you can actually just reset a vendor's inventory, including their gold, and then just continue vendor glitching them over and over again.
How do you reset there?
So normally you would do companions next, but I'm going to go do College of Winterhold first. Just so I can
companions
get the...
and do the axe, but it's not a big deal.
I like the scrolls though.
It is slightly faster.
There we go.
Yes, Mercurio is best boy. This is basically just one final boss fight and that's it.
So yeah, he has the Staff of Magnus now. That is one of the MacGuffins. It's going to be used to help him deal with the other MacGuffin. He also has something important to do here.
Did the inventory reset?
The scroll is gone.
Oh boy.
Oof.
So every so often, I believe it's 30 in-game days, that you haven't been in an area, that will reset. And since he's been going all over Skyrim with fast travel, a lot of time has passed.
This is fine.
This is gonna be rough.
Do you have enough XP to level to heal?
I probably do.
Yeah, that's one like backup strat. Since you have to like actively level up and you never do it in the run, it's like if you're in danger, you can just kind of level up because you get a whole bunch of XP.
Playing this fight casually. Oh boy. Where are you?
You should just leave.
Yes, keep your fists out like that. I like it when it's like that.
He's hiding behind
Also,
Tolfir.
what is Tolfir doing?
He's hanging out. Yeah, he's not. If he behaves,
I
he's not.
didn't need to take
bad.
that. Okay.
Sorry, Tolfir.
that was a thing.
I have no idea.
All right, well we're done. You just killed him and stripped him naked for some reason.
Insult to injury.
You have our gratitude. What's going on?
So that's 2 down. Well, yeah, 2 down.
2
We had
down.
it in
2
Dark
to
Brotherhood.
go.
For anyone worried about Tolfdir there, fortunately for him, he is an essential NPC, so he cannot be killed without using the console in the game. So he could have dropped him down to the point where he would have been staggering around like Nazim was for so long.
This is the
But
resting place of
he would have actually been able to kill him. Nazir, not Nazim.
So this is the end of the companions. This is also a long and tedious dungeon, but the end of the dungeon is actually directly below the start. So we can just do another one of these clips. Hopefully it'll work better.
Don't you... Ah!
He just wants to help for Codlock, man. For Codlock.
The game is being real strong today.
Oh. No, darn it.
Oh, yeah. It is quite a bit lower, so you have to land on one or two
No,
things on the way down.
Farkas, no. I don't want my bowl back, thank you.
Yeah, if you drop something, they can sometimes run up and pick it up and give it to you.
Just take it from me.
Hey, you dropped this. Does this mean you don't want it anymore?
Here we go. Then we hit this trigger. Oh, not yet.
Of course.
You have to talk to him first. This is just, you talk to his ghost, and then a ghost wolf appears, and you kill the ghost wolf. And then that's it.
Oh shoot, need to wait an hour before I do that.
Also, the ghost wolf is flanking when it spawns in. So that's... Yeah.
Oh, good job, Farkas.
Oh man, Farkas going in. He's making up for being annoying.
Farkas, okay, you earned your I don't know about praise, but like something not.
Okay, one last quest.
Yeah, that's 3 out of 4. We can just load warp out of there.
Yep, so he has one more thing to do, and that is go through the Twilight Sepulchre.
Which is another very long dungeon that we may have some strats for.
I won't be doing a horse tilt clip because that horse tilt clip for Thieves Guild is probably the hardest, like one of the hardest ones, just as bad as the Companions Glenmoral Coven one. And because my PC can't handle pause buffering well, I won't be able to land it. So, walking isn't that long either.
Also, yeah, Ayla kind of follows you over here because I think it's because you're still kind of on the quest right after you turned into a werewolf.
Yeah.
You
still
think
have...
it's because of that, not
You're
because
supposed to, like, go and kill a bunch of the Silverhand, and she's there with you. And since we just leave, she just keeps following. And yeah, we're playing as High Elf because High Elf is the tallest race, and that just means that you move faster.
There is one last fun thing in the run too. We'll be getting to.
Yeah, the only other race that really makes sense for any category is Orc, and that's because Orcs are almost as tall and they have the Adrenaline Rush, or not Adrenaline Rush, that's Red Guard.
Does anyone know the fast map? I don't know the fast map. I haven't learned it.
But Berserker Rage means that...
I can't remember.
Berserker Rage is good if you're actually doing scary fights and fighting them straight, so... Like, I could see it being useful for a couple categories in Glitchless, maybe. Though you do a lot more running in those, so I don't know. Probably just, like, higher difficulties it would be the only case where Orcs would ever be preferable.
That was scary. Nearly died there. Okay. Time is soon-ish, by the way, in like a minute. Okay, so normally there's this long cutscene and a lot of stuff that happens here, but you can skip all that by doing a bucket clip.
A triple slash. Shame. Shame that didn't hit, but oh well.
Welcome again, everyone, to Cold Cases from Every State. As per usual, I asked you all what cases I should cover tonight, and we're focusing on Maine. I've chosen 3 from all of your suggestions. With Maine being one of the least populated states in the US, there was a shocking amount to choose from. But that's neither here nor there. Let's begin.
Walking down the street 1 minute near her home, and then the next, she simply vanished.
Well, police in Phoenix are hunting for a serial killer who detectives believe is responsible for at least 7 deaths in the last 4 months.
Unfortunately, bodies have still yet to be identified, and this case remains unsolved.
Mary Olenchuk was born on November 18, 1956. From what I can see, she lived a fairly simple life in Agunquit, Maine, up until August 9, 1970, the day she went missing. It was on that day Mary, her mother, and sisters were spending their day at Little Beach, near their summer home. At some point, Mary decided she'd wanted something sweet, and so she took a friend's bike to their house to change from her bathing suit. She put on a pair of faded pink Wrangler shorts and a white t-shirt. As Mary was heading into town, she stopped in front of the Lookout Hotel, which was reportedly just 200 yards from her home's front door. Reports from witnesses at the time.
Oh, sorry, Vern. Didn't mean to wake you up. I just didn't want you to miss today's big entertainment extravaganza. That's right, Vern. Today's the big day when your old buddy Ernest P. Worrell will go down in those big fake history books. Just think, Vern. Kids in the future will have my name as one of the multiple choices on all their history exams, like Below the Equator or Textiles or even none of the above. Well, going back to sleep, Vern. You still got a couple hours. Oh, and Vern, I like you, little bear. Blue bear.
You probably have seen, or at least are familiar, with 1 or 2 of the Ernest movies, a series of well-liked family films made in a span between 1987 and 1998. But if you didn't actually grow up during this time period, it can be easy to overlook the immense popularity of Ernest P. Worrell, a character created by star Jim Varney and an ad executive named John Cherry, originally created to sell products on local channels in Nashville, Tennessee, that would end up becoming a national sensation, resulting in multiple films, a TV series, fan club, and even merchandise, the likes of which all gave Pee Wee Herman a run for his money. And to think it all began as a simple TV commercial is just incredible. It's a success story the likes of which we'll never see again, a story that involves an immensely gifted comedic performer and a creative team that knew how to support him, inspiring a generation of fans and changing pop culture forever. Here's how it all began.
The great conversationalist in town was Virgil. Virgil ran the filling station. He always had wonderful things to say, like, "You want to buy it down?" '57 Chevy. Shoot thee now, that sucker will fly.
In 1976, Jim Varney was an aspiring actor living in Los Angeles. He was growing popular in the LA stand-up comedy scene for his many impressions and wacky character bits. But Jim was having trouble securing long-term acting roles, without having much success beyond the occasional guest spot or part in a failed TV pilot. So in 1980, feeling dejected, Jim moved back home to his hometown and began to work a series of hard labor jobs to provide for his family, figuring his acting career was probably over. That's when Jim got a call from John Cherry, an ad executive he had done work for in the 70s, playing a character called Sergeant Glory in a series of TV commercials.
And a Purity's own cheese whiz Ike Shores for award-winning cottage cheese. Great bunch of guys.
Cherry and his partners had come up with a new character they thought would be perfect for Jim, The concept of the commercial was simple. A client had recently purchased a rundown amusement park. Not wanting to showcase the actual park in the commercial because of its poor state, Cherry's team devised an idea for a commercial that would feature an excited patron telling his neighbor about having visited the park. This way, they could promote the park without actually having to show it while it got some much needed repairs and upgrades. Jim, wanting to get back into acting, leaped at the opportunity, bringing his own characterizations and mannerisms to the part. The completed ad was seen by another client, Purity Dairy, who believed Ernest would be a great way to advertise their dairy products to kids. Soon, more companies followed and wanted to use Ernest for their products too. Before long, the Ernest commercials began to air in markets all over the country, with Ernest selling just about any product imaginable.
Hey, Vern, what's that you got there? Country fresh ice cream in my favorite flavor.
Zinka. Sinka. Kotext was XD. Vlogojuz. I text was od2hw yendim mijsku xd.
Look what your buddy Ernest has brought you, Vern. An icy cold Sprite. Did you know that Tyson's Toyota is selling used cars and trucks for well below the Blue Book price? Made with delicious, nutritious, challenge buttermilk. See, it's the one with the little elk on the label. I was just practicing for The Price is Right with Tom Kennedy, weeknights on WDBJ7, your hometown station. A real Brahms country fried steak sandwich with tomatoes and lettuce and the works. Frozen walnut cream cake with the double fudge center. This Hoover vacuum cleaner. Free, Vern. Boy, it sure does suck 'em up. Well, Vern, you should have had them glued down. Know what I mean?
The key to the success of the Ernest commercials was in their simplicity. The ads were often filmed at the home of John Cherry, with the cameraman playing neighbor Vern. This gave the ads a distinctive local feel, with people watching around the country feeling like the ads were filmed right in their own neighborhood.
This character, it's so successful. Have you sat back at all and analyzed? I mean, you told me earlier you've done like 800 commercials.
Yeah, right around 800.
Why do you think he's so successful?
I think everybody identifies with them. They either have a neighbor or a relative that's like that. They've always got a better deal than you've got, or they tell you what you did wrong, and so I think everybody knows him.
The crew also used the fishbowl lens on Ernest to emphasize the comedic effect. This, along with Jim Varney being a naturally gifted physical comedian, really made the ads a hit with audiences around the country. Soon, Jim was making personal appearances as Ernest to sold-out crowds at shopping malls and events around the country. One such event, that year's Indy 500, was also featuring an appearance by Mickey Mouse. But when Ernest garnered a more enthusiastic response from the crowd than Mickey, it didn't go unnoticed. Seated in the audience that day just so happened to be then Disney CEO Michael Eisner, who took careful note of the crowd's reception to Ernest. And so, a little over a year later, Disney partnered with John Cherry to make a deal to bring Ernest P. Worrell to the big screen.
Yep. Ernest P. Worrell, camp counselor. An extraordinary thing to witness.
Ernest Goes to Camp would become the first Ernest film. The movie faced the challenge of adapting the Ernest character to a different format, interacting with multiple characters outside of his neighbor Vern. The film also gave Jim a chance to inject some emotion into the character.
You know what I think? I think we might just could beat them.
Right!
And run them off this land.
Yeah!
Yeah. I think we might just get a little bit rowdy.
While the producers were well aware of the risk, their gamble paid off. The film's simplistic plot helped keep production costs low, making the film an easy box office hit. Ernest P. Worrell, a character who just a few years ago was hawking chocolate milk on local TV, was now a movie star. While Jim Varney was proud of the character's success, he also had his reservations that the popularity of Ernest would hurt his ambitions to be a serious character actor and would lead to him being typecast. Still, Disney was impressed with the film's performance and commissioned a sequel. At this time, an Ernest Saturday morning TV show titled Hey Vern, It's Ernest was also being developed. And to top it all off, there were still Ernest commercials that needed to be made. This made playing Ernest Jim Varney's full-time job.
WTBS, MTV, ESPN, Nashville Network.
3 Ernest movies followed in quick succession. Ernest Saves Christmas, Ernest Goes to Jail, and Ernest Scared Stupid. Each film put the character in a new setting, with new characters on a new adventure. One thing remained clear: the writers had no shortage of ideas for Ernest. He befriended Santa Claus, faced off against an evil twin, and saved the world from a group of trolls all in a 3-year span. Name me another film character that can put that on their resume. Even though Hey Vern, It's Ernest was cancelled after 13 episodes, it still earned Jim a Daytime Emmy Award for portraying the character, signifying some much-deserved praise for his performance. By 1993, however, Disney was no longer satisfied with the box office returns of the Ernest films, and John Cherry used the opportunity to break free of the company and make the remaining Ernest films independently.
Other than this little bit of evidence that the regiment existed, you have nothing.
Ernest Rides Again was the first in the series produced outside of Disney. I'm always surprised that this film is not well known amongst Ernest fans, because I find it to be one of the better films.
Real evidence that the crown jewels of England were hidden inside of Canada. Now,
It pairs Ernest with a much-needed straight man character to bounce off of,
Will this help?
as the two search for a missing Revolutionary War cannon. That same year, Jim landed a role that really excited him, Jed Clampett in the big screen remake of the Beverly Hillbillies. The role allowed Jim to show audiences that he was capable of playing a lead that wasn't Ernest. And even gave him some dramatic scenes.
Every time I look into your eyes, I can see your mother.
Disney also continued their working relationship with Jim, casting him as the voice of Slinky Dog in the groundbreaking film Toy Story. Even when promoting these new roles, people still just wanted to know about Ernest, which Jim was always happy to talk about.
You're best known, obviously, to everybody as Ernest P. Worrell. And are you going to do any more of those films? Because I know kids love them.
As a matter of fact, next month, there's a new one. Ernest Rides Again.
Rides Again?
Rides Again.
Yeah.
And even though Ernest Rides Again would become the last theatrically released Ernest film, the series continued to be in demand, going direct to video with future releases. Ernest Goes to School and Slam Dunk Ernest followed in the mid-90s, with production on the films now taking place in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
The films continued to be cheap to make, so profits were maximized. Much like playing his evil twin in Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Goes to School allowed Jim to break free of his standard Ernest performance in portraying Ernest's pretentious alter ego.
My good man, would you happen to have any sauce béarnaise for this meatloaf ordinaire? Fresh cilantro? Picante salsa?
Jim also continued scoring small character bits in film and TV shows.
Go ahead, damn it! A man ought not be. And Julie wants to apologize. It's y'all's fault. Doing her that way in her English.
And with the Ernest films becoming less popular, it was clear that he wouldn't be typecast.
It's a goddamn potato famine.
Still, the Ernest movies carried on. The next two films would shoot on location in South Africa. The appropriately named Ernest Goes to Africa came in 1997, followed up by Ernest in the Army in 1998. Ernest director John Cherry, who would finally step in front of the camera and co-stars Ernest's buddy Ben in the latter film, noticed the change in his star's energy.
You're about the best friend I've ever had.
Every time, bud. Every time.
Still, it's hard to notice any lack of enthusiasm on Jim's part when comparing his performance in Ernest in the Army to his performance in the first film 11 years earlier. But it turned out John Cherry's note of Jim's declining energy was not unfounded. In 1999, after finishing voice work on Toy Story 2, Jim, a lifelong smoker, was diagnosed with lung cancer. And even though he fought valiantly, he lost his battle on February 10th of 2000, cutting a career far too short. His note of Jim's declining energy was not unfounded. In 1999, after finishing voice work on Toy Story 2, Jim, a lifelong smoker, was diagnosed with lung cancer. And even though he fought valiantly, he lost his battle on February 10th of 2000, cutting a career far too short. Looking back, just over 20 years since his death, the story of Jim's success is such an inspiring one. Although he's commonly remembered as the Ernest character, it's hard to watch any of his performances and not see his incredible range as an actor. Even though Jim had ambitions to be a character actor, I think the Ernest films actually gave him a chance to do that. In each film, he was able to play a variety of different characters.
That's life for you. You have two sons, one good, one bad. And wouldn't you know it, with my luck, the good one dies.
He filled those 9 Ernest movies with his infectious charm and comedy timing, continually topping himself and making us laugh in the process. I think Jim learned to embrace playing Ernest for that reason. The clear joy the character brought audiences was so evident and is still being referenced in pop culture today.
Ask your mom. I'm not very good with tough decisions.
We'll be closing in 2 minutes.
I would have loved to have seen him grow as an actor, continuing to secure small character parts throughout the 2000s. I would have even loved to see the Ernest character at 60. But I'm also so grateful for the performances he left behind. There will never be another success story like Jim Varney's. He came, he saw, he left an impact on comedy forever. He really was the original viral star.
Of course, that was back when me and Harriet was down in New Orleans. And Carol Lawrence went in behind one of them Flying Tiger airplanes and changed her clothes. I seen a woman one time, boy, that done a dance with a potato chip bag. Did I ever tell you about the time that me and Harriet was in a group called the Andrews Sisters? I was Laverne and she was Shirley.
Pulled out of San Pedro late one night. The moon and stars were shining bright. We was driving up Grapevine Hill, passing cars like they were standing still. Now the boys all thought I'd lost my sense. Them telephone poles looked like a picket fence. They said, slow down, I see spots. Lines on the road just look like dots. Took a corner, side-swiped the truck. I crossed my fingers just for luck. My fenders was clicking the guardrail post. The guy beside me was white as a ghost.
Times say they saw Mary speaking with a white man in his 30s who was dressed in dark clothes, driving a maroon car with scratches atop the hood. While they weren't certain, it was believed to be a 1967 Chevrolet. The witness claimed they looked away for a second, but when they looked back, she was getting into the car with this man, leaving the bicycle behind. Friends and family have said that this would be unusual behavior for Mary. She was said to be incredibly shy and would have never gotten into a car with someone she did not know and trust. Of course, this is why it is believed that Mary knew her abductor, and Mary's abduction was reported to the police, but not to the public until 2 days after. The police, as well as Mary's parents, were under the impression they'd receive some kind of ransom call. But this never came, and so Mary's abduction was made public. Given her father's involvement in the military, he was a brigadier general, the military, FBI, and local police became involved. Flyers with Mary's smiling face were placed not only in Maine, but in various other states as well. Flyers were placed as far south as Delaware, and even up north into Canada. 2 weeks passed, and the idea that Mary would be found alive was beginning to look less plausible. A police officer's daughter said that there was a strange smell coming from a nearby farm in Kennebunk, 10 miles from where Mary was last seen. Upon investigation, Mary's body was discovered covered up by piles of hay. She'd been strangled by a lobster wrap, which is a rope with about a 1/4-inch diameter. There was no sign of sexual assault. And there were no leads early into the investigation, and honestly, nothing much to this day. One young man, 16-year-old Bob Walsh, came forward to report that he heard rustling in the barn around 1:30 or 2 in the morning, as he and his friend were dropping off their fishing gear. He said he noticed a car near his family's motel just a few hundred yards away start up and then drive into a nearby intersection. It idled for a short time and then drove off. Despite Bob never owning a car or even a license, locals began to call him Killer Bob, insinuating that he had something to do with the abduction or with taking Mary's life. But there is no evidence to support this theory. The one theory that everyone comes back to with being plausible is that someone did not agree with what Mary's father was doing. As he said, her father was a brigadier general in the Army. He was placed in charge of Operation Chase. Operation Chase, which stands for Cut Holes and Sink 'em, was one of the largest controversies of the time. The operation involved encasing 3,000 tons of nerve gas rockets in concrete and dumping them into the ocean just off the coast of Florida. Many opposed this idea, but one student group from Kentucky stands out above the others. It was reported this group claimed they would kidnap the families involved in the operation. This was partly why the police had waited 2 days for a ransom call that never came. Furthermore, this threat came just a day before Mary was abducted. While that is quite the theory, some online don't believe it. Many point out that the threat came just 1 day before the abduction, meaning there wouldn't be much time to plan something as risky as a kidnapping. As of now, there have been no more leads that have led to large developments in this case. Both of Mary's parents have passed away, and this case seems to have been sitting dormant for nearly 50 years. Police are, of course, asking for anyone with helpful information regarding this case to come forward and report it. You can do so at the numbers that you see on screen right now. Kim's case begins in the town of Jay in western Maine, a small town of around 4,500 residents. It was the 9th of May, 1986, when Kim was only 17, and she left her home and was never seen again. According to Kim's father, she was wearing a white blouse, blue jeans, and white top sneakers. She had a necklace with her boyfriend's class ring engraved into it, Mike 87. That day, Kim's father said Kim and a friend, Rhonda Brayton, were out with 2 of their male friends who were both in their 20s, following their plans for prom being canceled. Later that night, around 11 p.m., Kim showed up at home for a short time before heading back out with one of the young men who were with her and Rhonda that night. It hasn't been reported who was driving the car or if they were alone, but one of the men, Brian Inman, became a person of interest not too long ago. It begins in August of 2015, just a few months after the 29-year anniversary of Kim's abduction. Brian's property and the area around it were searched extensively, as it was believed there may have been something for the police to find. Over the next 4 days, police went out with a cadaver dog, ground-penetrating radar, and a backhoe trying to find anything of note. But nothing was uncovered, and police have declined to say what led them to search the property in the first place. Brian continues to decline any involvement in Kim's disappearance, but he has said that he and the other men were both under the influence of alcohol and cocaine at the time. Other than this, he claims he dropped Kim off near her home before heading home himself. The other man that was with them that night hasn't been named. Furthermore, Brian holds steady that Kim was dropped off near her home by her request around 3:45 in the morning of May 10th. He claims she was still upset about her plans having to be canceled and wanted to walk the rest of the way home. It would have been about half a mile from her house. Her father and one of her sisters don't believe this story, though. They say that Kim passed away only hours, maybe even minutes, following her leaving in the car with the same man. Some say this could have been because of an accidental overdose, given one of the men say that they were under the influence of alcohol and cocaine that night. Afraid of the charges that would befall them, Kim was buried somewhere where no one could find her. But that is just speculation. In May of 2019, News Center Maine held a small report on Kim's case, following a lead that many believe to be promising.
State police could not tell us if they're any closer to finding Kim, but they did say that this is one of the cases that gets the most tips out of any of their 30 missing persons cases. Kim's father, Richard Morrow, says he's working on a new tip, and he believes he's the closest he's ever been to finding his daughter.
Now Richard is working on a new tip, one that state police would not speak about in detail, but that Richard believes is credible.
At the time of the report, police didn't say what the tip was, who reported it, or what the investigation would entail. But given that another dig was done at a different property the following month, it's safe to assume this is where that lead sent the investigation. The dig was more of an excavation, given it was a slab of concrete from a previous foundation that was pulled up with the use of jackhammers. This slab, located on Route 4 in Livermore, was rumored to cover the burial site for Kim after she went missing. Just like the previous dig, however, nothing came up. Next month will be the 34th year Kim's case has gone unsolved. Her father still believes that someone knows what happened that night and is just too afraid to speak up. If you do know of anything that you believe can help the police in this case, don't hesitate to call the Maine State Police or the Livermore Falls PD at the numbers you see on screen right now. It begins just a week before Christmas on the 17th of December, 2011, when 20-month-old Ayla Reynolds went missing. At the time, she was with her father, Justin DePietro. She was placed here temporarily by a Maine Department Human Services employee, Karen Small. It's been reported that Karen did not conduct a home visit before the decision to place Ayla in Justin's custody. Trista, Ayla's mother, was said to be in the area at the time, heading to rehab for her heroin addiction. Of course, that day, the 17th of December, Ayla was reported missing. This sparked the largest and most extensive search in Maine's history. The search, unfortunately, only turned up more questions. Ayla, who was last seen wearing green polka dot pajamas with the words "Daddy's Princess" across the front with a soft cast on her arm, was not found. Justin's sister Alicia and his girlfriend Courtney Roberts were also in the home at the time and gave depositions as late as 2017. A search of Justin's home was done a month following Ayla's disappearance, in which police found blood in the home. It was said to be over a cup of blood, and much more than a small cut would produce. Justin had been accused of abusing the child in the past, but maintains he had nothing to do with it, claiming he called the police after not being able to find Ayla the morning of the 17th.
Well, for the first time in months, we're getting a new piece of information in the Ayla Reynolds case. That's the case of the toddler from Waterville who's been missing since December of 2011.
WMTW News 8 has obtained a transcript
of the 911 call made by Ayla's father, Justin DePietro, the morning he reported her missing. WMTW News 8's Allie Mile joins us live now in the studio to tell us what they said. Allie?
Tracy, Steve, Maine law does not allow 911 audio recordings to be released, but we did get the written transcripts today. According to those, Justin DePietro called 911 on December 17th, 2011 at 8:49 in the morning, saying his daughter was missing. DePietro's name has been blacked out, but police told us he called 911 that day. When this dispatcher asked when the last time he saw Ayla was, he said, "When I put her to bed last night, my sister had checked on her. Woke up this morning, went to her room, and she's not there." Then the dispatcher says, "Okay, and you've checked all through the house. Is there any way she could have climbed out of her crib?" DePietro answers, "No, ma'am, there is no way she could have got, there's no way she could." DePietro also told the dispatcher Ayla was wearing green pajamas. Ayla would be 4 years old this April. DePietro said his sister, her daughter, and DePietro's girlfriend and her son were also at the Waterville home when this happened.
As the time ticked on in this case, it became more and more of a mystery. Justin reportedly passed a polygraph test, and Ayla, or her remains, have yet to be found. While she was declared legally deceased in 2017, her taken from the home, and she is still alive somewhere. Justin also believes she was abducted. Ayla's mother is not so hopeful. She believes Ayla's father played a bigger part in this than is being let on.
So today marks 7 years since Ayla was taken from me. Not a day goes by that I am not haunted by what happened to Ayla. For 7 years, I've asked myself, who would want to hurt such an innocent little girl that was filled with so much spunk? When did she really pass away? Was it the night of December 16th or was it the morning of December 16th? December 17th. I asked myself, where could have Justin put Ayla's body? And my final question that I ask myself every day is, did Ayla cry out for me? Did she wonder where I was, knowing I should have been there to protect her and save her? Or was she that strong girl and wondered why her daddy was doing this to her? I wonder if this is haunting you, Justin. I wonder if our daughter haunts your dreams, or if you see her blue eyes when you close your eyes at night. I wonder if you even think about that night you murdered her. We both know your story of Ayla being abducted is not real. So why not be the voice for our daughter and tell me the truth? It's funny, you run and you hide from what you did to our little blue-eyed hair girl that you once called Princess. Justin, I promise you, wherever you are, one day you will have to face me and tell me the truth about what really happened to Ayla. That night, you can't hide from this forever. Eventually, it will eat at you, and I know I will get justice for Ayla, and I won't stop fighting for justice. I'll live inside a courtroom till the day I get my justice for her.
Trista filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Justin in 2017 following the anniversary of Ayla's disappearance. If you're unsure of what something like that entails, like I was, I'll try to explain it in the simplest way possible. A wrongful death lawsuit can be filed against someone when someone in their care passes away due to some kind of neglectful act, medical malpractice, or even if their victim had their lives taken intentionally. For example, in the case of O.J. Simpson, while he was found not guilty, he was still sued in civil court for the deaths of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. In Ayla's case, this would fall under negligence. If the suit were to go through, Ayla's mother would be up for some kind of financial compensation, but had said that this isn't about the money, but more about trying to find out exactly what happened on the 17th of December, 2011. If you have any information that you believe can help in Ayla's case, please do not hesitate. Police have said this is very much an active investigation, and any tips are incredibly helpful. Report anything you know to the Waterville Police Department at the number you see on screen right now. I just want to take a second to say thank you to everyone who sat down and listened to these cases today. I know that last one, it kind of ruined my entire week for me. Reading about that case specifically was very hard to do, let alone writing about it, and now filming the video, editing the video and things. So just make sure you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of everyone around you, because you never know what can happen. I also want to take a quick second to thank everyone you see on screen right now. They are the members and patrons and everyone who is supporting this channel monthly. I greatly, greatly appreciate you, and if you want to join them, you can get videos a day early by doing so. Just click that little join button below the video, or follow the link to my Patreon that is in the description. You can also pick up some merch at the Teespring store. The Take Care of Yourself and Take Care of Each Other tees are some of my favorite I've ever had, and I think it's a really good message that we should share with everyone that we possibly can. So, of course, as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and as always, stay safe out there.
Walking down the street 1 minute near her home, and then the next, she simply vanished.
Well, police in Phoenix are hunting for a serial killer who detectives believe is responsible for at least 7 deaths in the last 4 months.
Unfortunately, bodies have still yet to be identified, and this case remains unsolved.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode in the Cold Cases from Every State series. I know it's been quite some time since the last one, but I've really enjoyed covering single cases rather than lumping so many together. With that said though, tonight we're covering 3 cold cases from Louisiana. I was asked by many to cover the Jeff Davis 8, but I've covered that in a previous video. Also, given the immense size of that case, it may warrant its own deep dive. So without further ado, let's begin. Clint grew up in Spearfish, South Dakota, but moved to Hogton, Louisiana in March of 2006, where he was staying with his father. Hogton is an incredibly small town of only 3,300 people as of 2016, so the idea of someone going missing and not being found is incredibly hard for me to wrap my head around, though I suppose stranger things have happened. At the time of Clint's disappearance, he was making an honest living working at an oil rig, though it's noted he did use drugs. It was known that Clint had a bit of a record with charges of possession of marijuana, drug paraphernalia, and the most dangerous, prescription-level Xanax. Many believe this played a part in his untimely passing. The night he went missing, September 1st, Clint left the home of a friend where there was a party taking place. The friend's home was located on the 800 block of Ward Lane on Highway 80 in Princeton, Louisiana. This was just after 8:30 that night. Around this time, Clint's father called him to make sure everything was okay and that he was headed home. During the call, Clint said he believed he saw police lights and that they were following him. After that, the call ended and there was no more activity recorded on his cell, and Clint was never heard from again. As of now, Clint's body hasn't been found. I say body simply because his parents believe he is no longer alive. They said this just a year after his disappearance while participating in a search party for Clint. We look for anything like bones or clothing. A further look down the article, it states that they're hoping for the best, but have already come to terms with the idea of him being deceased. Among the search party were groups who have been instrumental in making sure Clint's case gets told. The Texas EcuSearch, Let's Bring Them Home, and the Kristen Foundation. The search party, which included over 24 friends, family, and volunteers, stretched over 3 days, but unfortunately, nothing came up. Still, even after nearly 14 years, the small town of Hogton hasn't given up hope. On the 10-year anniversary of Clint's disappearance, articles were published about his story, and billboards were put up in various towns throughout Louisiana. There isn't much in the way of theories in this case. Some believe that Clint may have overdosed at the party or afterward, and close friends hid his body in worries of being charged. In Louisiana, if someone were to OD and then the drug was traced back to the original seller, that seller could be looking at a murder charge. This theory doesn't sit right with everyone, though. In the article published on the 10-year anniversary of Clint's disappearance, his mother states that while he did struggle with substance abuse, he was clean for a long time. The article states, Nelson's mother said Nelson previously had issues related to substance abuse, but had been clean for more than 2 years. Everyone who has spoken to her or the police about Nelson said he showed no signs of further drug use before his disappearance. I will note that according to the Charlie Project, Clint had a court date set for November 2006, just 2 months after he went missing. These were on charges of possession, including marijuana and Xanax. Going back to the phone call, it isn't clear how far he was from the party when it took place, or if he was alone. Some believe he took off on his own, meaning to disappear, but he left behind a paycheck for $2,000 and his pregnant girlfriend, who gave birth only a few months after Clint went missing. The idea of robbery gone wrong has been suggested in some corners of the internet, but if so, they wouldn't have made off with much. It's believed that Clint's only had a handful of cash on him at the time and no credit cards or other valuables. Either way, police do believe foul play was involved. A reward of up to $20,000 is being offered to anyone who can give police information that leads to Clint's remains being discovered. That is the main focus of this case at the time. If you do have anything you believe can help them in this case, don't hesitate to call the Bossier Parish Sheriff's Office at the number on screen right now. Also known as the Slidell Jane Doe, this young woman has gone unidentified for over 30 years. The details of her untimely passing are incredibly disturbing as well. Her remains were discovered in Lake Pontchartrain in Slidell, St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana, on the 19th of June, 1986. 2 fishermen had discovered her floating about 50 yards from the shore. When police showed up and recovered her, they knew that this was a case of foul play and not someone who had taken their own life. With a highway passing right over the lake, that couldn't have been ruled out. But the woman was found with a plastic bag around her head. It had been secured with duct tape around her neck. There were also stab wounds in her face, though asphyxiation was the official COD. Finally, a weight had been tied around her neck in hopes of keeping the body floating to the top. Of course, this only worked for a short time. It's believed she'd been deceased only 36 hours at the time of her discovery. Unfortunately, the water wiped away any physical or DNA evidence that was on her at the time. This halted the investigation nearly as soon as it began. There was a list of identifying characteristics released about her, as well as a 3D bust created to give an idea of what she looked like before her untimely passing. Some of the most notable bits of information include the previous injuries to her hips, which were believed to have been caused by a car accident. She was believed to have some type of facial reconstruction done, including rhinoplasty, and she also had breast implants. Unfortunately, these implants had no identifying serial numbers that could be traced back to the surgeon who performed the procedure. Finally, her ring finger had a tan line near the end of it, indicating that she'd been wearing a wedding ring for some time, although one hasn't been found. And finally, the wedding ring, had it been removed by the person who took her life, investigators have expressed that it could have been the husband who took her life following him finding out that she'd conceived. As of now, police and investigators have ruled out 21 women in this case, but have yet to identify her. If you believe you have any information that you can help get an ID on this young woman, don't hesitate. You can contact the St. Tammany Parish Police Department at the number you see on screen right now. In the year 1989, Vanessa was 19 years old. At the time, she was living with her mother Jeanette, her brother, and her niece Danielle Hernandez. Vanessa and her family grew up in Gentilly, New Orleans, Louisiana. Vanessa's cousin described her as a sweet and kind-hearted soul, but she was very outgoing, possibly to a fault. From what I understand, Danielle described her as carefree and ready to try just about anything. She was, in a way, living life to the fullest. The night of December 14th was the night all of it unfortunately came to a screeching and horrific halt. That night, Vanessa and Danielle's cousin Tiffany were having a conversation on their front porch. Two young men from their neighborhood, only referred to as Charlie and Scott, approached the women and talked for a small time before the conversation became heated between Vanessa and the men. According to Tiffany, one of the men pushed Danielle and looked as if he was going to do more, but the other boy stopped him. This was said to be around 8 or 9 p.m. Before the boys headed off, they reportedly told Vanessa they would give her a call. The two women went back inside after this exchange. Some hours later, between 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m., the phone in Vanessa's home rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number, and despite her brother Waldo seeing that Vanessa wanted to answer it, he told her it was far too late to be taking phone calls. He went back to bed shortly after their exchange. Around 5 or 5:30 in the morning of December 15th, Waldo woke up again to use the bathroom and noticed Vanessa still awake watching television. He said before he believes she was still waiting on a call. Shortly after this, he went back to bed. 30 minutes to an hour later, around 6 or 6:30, Vanessa's grandmother, who lived across the street, went outside to make sure the garbage can was near the road for pickup. At this time, she believes she saw Vanessa outside her house. She said she thought about telling her to go back inside, but ultimately didn't. At 6:30, Waldo woke up to get ready for work and went outside to a shed where their washer and dryer were. He said, "I went to open the back door and the door was already open. What the hell was going on here?" I thought about it and said maybe Nessa went outside and she was getting my clothes for me. Vanessa wasn't in the shed, however. He checked her room, the one she shared with her mother, and believed he saw her sleeping, so he assumed she had gone back to bed and he left for work. When Vanessa's mother woke up, Vanessa wasn't home. She looked all around the house and outside, but there was no sign of her. She began calling all of Vanessa's close friends to ask if they'd seen her, but they all said no. She then called the police. According to her, it was very out of character for Vanessa to leave without telling anyone. 3 weeks passed and the family heard nothing, but when they did, it was the worst case scenario. Vanessa's body was discovered in an abandoned building just outside of her own house, as you can see on this map here. Her body was discovered by a worker who was doing a walkthrough of the residence who had plans of selling the building. Vanessa's body was in a shed in the backyard. She'd been sexually assaulted, her throat was cut open, and her face and torso and leg were severely burned. Dental records were used to identify her. The detective on the case took to interviewing every teenager they could in the area. This, of course, included Charlie, whom we spoke of before. From some reports, it's believed Charlie and Vanessa were intimate, despite Charlie having a girlfriend and a child. Furthermore, Charlie had a record with various drug charges, and according to Vanessa's niece, Charlie lost his job at a shipyard following a complaint from someone claiming he was under the influence at work. It's believed Vanessa was the one who placed the call. Of course, it's believed that Charlie had something to do with Vanessa's untimely passing. Given their physical exchange the night prior to her going missing, the fact that he'd said he'd give her a call and an unknown number called that night, the fact that they were intimate, and finally, the connection to her reporting his drug use to his employer. Vanessa's grandmother said Charlie's name came up numerous times during the beginning stages of the investigation, but eventually it stopped. No charges were ever filed, and investigators soon stopped contacting her. Many online have criticized the investigation for one main reason: the purging of records done by the New Orleans Police Department. Records and evidence from over 2,500 rape cases and 50 murder cases between 1992 and 2002 were thrown out. Police were close to tracking down their suspect in Vanessa's case in 2003, only to find that the 3 rape kits that were done on her have been tossed, leaving her case virtually unsolvable. Lest we not forget about the thousands of other cases that now sit in limbo. Unfortunately, the New Orleans police were not the only ones who participated in a purge. Willie Grimes, a man charged with rape in North Carolina, was no longer able to appeal his case because the evidence of his case had been tossed out by a court clerk. This entire case is incredibly frustrating, if I'm honest, but Vanessa's family is still looking for answers anywhere they can. Danielle Hernandez, Vanessa's niece, met with one of the detectives on Vanessa's case, Detective Winston Harbin. He believes she had her life taken in a separate location and was brought to the building sometime later. The houses in her neighborhood were very close together, so it's likely someone would have heard the crime taking place. Vanessa's case will be an incredibly hard one to solve, and that's why I always urge you to never hesitate if you have information. Waiting to report something could be detrimental to a case. If you do have any information you believe can help, call Crime Stoppers at the number you see right now, and you can also contact the New Orleans Police Department at this number. I want to thank everyone who watched this video and took some time out of their day to listen to these cases. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel, you can do so through the links in the description below. If you become a member or pledge on Patreon, you'll also get videos a day early and join all the incredible people that you see on screen right now. Thanks again for listening, everyone. Remember to take care of yourself, take care of each other, wash your hands, and as always, stay safe out there. What my body cam saw at Whispering Oaks. For the past 5 years, I've worked for a security firm that contracts with various businesses to provide guards for events and locations throughout the state. It's not a huge company like Tartarsol, but it has been a family business for nearly 50 years and does well enough. I've gotten a small raise every year, and the equipment updates at a faster rate than back when I was a cop. One of the latest updates was a new body camera system. It's integrated into our shoulder radio and has a good enough battery and memory card to last through a 12-hour shift without any problem. Best of all, it's light and doesn't require any extra fiddling. I just put it on my gear and go. The rest of my gear typically consists of a flashlight, pepper spray, a collapsible baton, and a stun gun. We're sometimes issued firearms, but it's only on a special basis, involving more insurance and waivers before we're allowed to work a job carrying one. For the most part, we're supposed to detect and deter more than fight people or apprehend a criminal. That's what our cell phones and the real police are for. Over the time I've worked security, I've seen some of the trends change. We still work parties and big meetings sometimes, and we have deals with several office buildings to provide round-the-clock guards and surveillance. But in the last few years, we've actually been dealing more with real estate companies and banks that want to protect development properties. Take the place I've been assigned to for the last few months, Whispering Oaks. 14 years ago, it was going to be one of the largest, most prosperous new gated communities on the East Coast. 1,000 acres with homes ranging from 2,000 up to 10,000 square feet. At its center was a massive clubhouse building with rooms for meetings and parties, its own gym, an indoor swimming pool and movie theater, to say nothing of the tennis courts, 3 more exterior pools, and a top-of-the-line 18-hole golf course scattered around the rest of the property. It even had a small gourmet grocery store on the corner of a little cobblestone street that I think was going to be filled with fancy cafes and boutiques. I can't even imagine the money that was sunk into this place, much less how much more the builders stood to make. There were plans for 400 homes in the initial building phase, and by 2006, they had already built over 100 of them. A few were built on spec as model homes to show prospective buyers, but most had been bought and built to order with the confines of the dozen or so approved house plans that were available to new owners. From what I've heard, the property was like an anthill back then. The constant flow of workers mixed with people checking on the progress of their dream home being built if they hadn't already moved in. But when the housing collapse happened that year, new house buyers started to trickle. Banks were giving out loans like they once had, and the constant buzz of activity slowed to a hum and then silence. The 60 or so families that were already out there found themselves surrounded by empty, partially built homes and bare lots that weren't being as meticulously maintained as they had been just a few months before. The clubhouse went from being fully staffed and brightly lit to being closed most of the time. According to a note on the front door, the company apologized for the inconvenience, but assured everyone the reduced hours and services were a temporary necessity during restructuring. That was apparently greasy rat speak for bankruptcy. Over time, the people who were left at Whispering Oaks figured out it wasn't going to get any better there. Even if the economy and housing market approved, who was going to buy an overpriced house in a closed-off, increasingly run-down and barren ghost town? So, they left. From what my buddy Oscar has told me, the last person was gone by 2014. 2 different banks who had been slowly consuming the property, one foreclosure at a time, wound up selling off the whole thing. To who? No one is really sure, other than that it is some European company with more money than sense. In the years following, the property hasn't been altered or improved, and is rarely visited at all, other than by guards and those the guards are meant to discourage. Meth heads wanting to steal copper out of the walls to sell, junkies and vagrants and kids looking for a place to hang out or spend a few nights. Even with all the time and neglect, the property and the buildings are still very valuable. Vandalism, theft, and arson are just some of the concerns. You also have to worry about someone trespassing, getting hurt, and then trying to sue. Again, I don't know who bought the place, but they clearly have an odd way of investing their money from what I've seen. All they've done is buy a headache and not done anything with it. Point being, my job, well, my company's job, is to make sure their headache doesn't get any worse. The clubhouse has been converted into a security office, and every day there is a guard posted there when they're not out patrolling the property. At night, there's 1 guard on Monday through Thursday, and 2 on Friday through Sunday, because people always want to be an asshole on the weekend. The typical routine for a 12-hour shift is as follows. Arrive at the clubhouse and log into the computer system. Check that the feeds from the security cameras set up outside of the clubhouse, the gourmet grocery store, the tennis courts, and the utility building are all functioning properly. Then, within 30 minutes of arrival, start patrol of one of the zones. Our security company has divided Whispering Oaks into 6 zones for patrol purposes. Zone 1 is the central area of the clubhouse and surrounding buildings, including the cobblestone shopping area and staff garage. Zone 2 is primarily streets containing smaller, if you call 2,000 to 3,000 foot homes small, in various states of being built, but few in totally finished state. Zone 3 contains most of the finished homes, big and small, as well as the tennis courts and 2 of the exterior pools. Zone 4 is the golf course and 2 miles of walking trails woven into the woods at the course's edge. Zone 5 is where the larger parcels of land were being sold. It is mainly empty, grown-up lots, but there are actually 3 enormous houses that were built to completion before everything collapsed. We called them the Red House, the Green House, and the Gray House, based on their exterior colors. Finally, there's Zone 6, which is pretty much just woods at the back edge of the property. There are paths there, but rather than the wide and relatively even routes you'd go on to get on the walking trails, we are forced to use crooked, hard-to-see paths that were cut just wide enough to allow our ATVs through. They are serviceable, but between the uneven ground and hidden tree roots, they are risky at anything faster than a slow crawl. Every hour, we are responsible for patrolling one of the zones. Between travel and patrol time, this typically means we are patrolling for about 30 minutes out of every hour, unless patrolling Zone 6, which typically takes almost the entire hour. We mix up the order with which the zones are patrolled so as not to provide a predictable pattern for anyone trying to trespass, but all zones are patrolled twice per shift, regardless of order. All in all, it hasn't been a bad assignment. The most I've ever seen on a shift was a meth head pulling a knife on me when I found him squatting in one of the baby mansions in Zone 3. But I kept him back with my pepper spray and radioed the dispatcher at the main office. No big deal. Occasionally, it's just a group of dumb kids looking for a secluded place to get into some kind of trouble, but mostly, it's quiet. Very quiet, and if I'm honest, more than a little creepy. I'm not a scary kind of guy. I've seen a good bit over the years, and while I don't claim to have ever been some kind of super cop or brave hero, I've never been cowardly or skittish either. But Whispering Oaks just has a strange feel to it. Maybe it's all the empty houses and streets. Some nights, when I'm riding my four-wheeler around on patrol, I imagine myself in some kind of post-apocalyptic movie where everyone else is gone or hiding. I always hate it when I have that thought, though, because it's so easy to believe. The black windows staring out at me like dead eyes, the grown-up lots filled with shadows. It's far easier to start thinking I'm in a dead world than it is to stop. That's why I like the weekends. I get a partner to keep company, and usually that partner is Oscar. Oscar has been with the company for nearly 30 years, and it showed. If he was in charge of deciding the company motto, I'm pretty sure we would soon have "fuck it" painted on the sides of all of our vehicles. That being said, he was a good guy, just old and tired and much more content to watch TV in the clubhouse and tell me stories than hump it around this expensive graveyard we're supposed to be guarding. He was the one that told me most of what I know about the past of Whispering Oaks, and I admit I was intrigued. If I occasionally took his patrols in exchange for his entertaining company when I got back to the clubhouse, I looked at it as a fair trade. Not everyone had the same tolerance for Oscar's casual approach, however. Jeff Spires was new with the company, having just left the military 6 months earlier. He wasn't an asshole, not exactly, but he was just very rigid and opinionated. Oscar thought it was due to his time in the Marines, but I wasn't so sure. I had known plenty of soldiers that were very nice, normal people, and Spires was neither. Rail thin and twitchy, he often seemed very unemotional, if a little jumpy. But then he would have these strange mood shifts where it seemed like he was caught somewhere between an angry outburst and breaking into tears. Plus, he was constantly making little comments to Oscar about what he should or should not be doing. Like a 60-year-old security guard pushing on the last few months of his pension gave a shit what he thought. Suffice to say, neither Oscar or myself liked the nights we were paired with Spires. We had seniority, which gave us influence over the schedule, and most of the time we could avoid him. But every once in a while, something would come up. Like last month, when I got sick with a stomach virus that laid me out for a week. When I got back to work, it was a Thursday night shift. Oscar was getting off, and while he asked how I was doing, he didn't hang around and chit-chat like he usually would if we were switching out at the same time. He also seemed strange, like he was distracted or preoccupied by something. When I asked him if anything was wrong, he just gave me a shaky smile. Nah, I just need to get going. Want to get home before dark. That evening started off quiet. Logged in, checked the cameras, and then went out to patrol Zone 4. It is normally one of the easiest to check. The weeds on the course are waist high, but there's usually not much need to leave the ATV except for checking the caddy shack and the small adjoining sheds where golf carts were once kept for being sold off. As for the walking trails, they are in surprisingly good shape after all this time, and they make perfectly serviceable roads during patrol. But while it was quiet, I felt unnerved. Like I said before, Whispering Oaks can be a bit creepy at the best of times, but this was different. It felt like I was being watched. I even thought I saw someone standing behind a tree while I was driving down the trails, but when I stopped and shined my light into the growing darkness between the trees, there was nothing there. Deciding I was needlessly freaking myself out, I finished my route and went back to the clubhouse. It was 3 hours later, when I was patrolling Zone 3, that I heard a splashing noise that sounded like it came from a nearby outdoor pool area. That, in and of itself, was strange. Beyond a bit of occasional rainwater, there hadn't been water in that pool for the entire time I've been working on that property, but I still had to check it out. I was heading to the gate of the pool patio when something caught my eye in the window of a nearby house. It was a face. A woman's face, round and pale like the moon. It hovered in the darkness of a bay window like some kind of spectral balloon, black eyes stretched wide and staring down at me as her lips split open to offer me a grayish-green grin. I let out a small noise of surprise as I came to a stop. This was now the priority, and I needed to call it in. I punched the button on my shoulder mic, intending on updating the office dispatch before I entered the home. All I got in response was a crackle of static. Cursing, I saw my body cam was still showing active, so I decided to clear the house and confront the woman before I lost track of her. I went around to the front porch and reached for my key ring. Each house with doors is keyed to be opened with the same master key, and I had one of the only copies on my gear belt. But when I grabbed the knob, I saw it was already unlocked. Not kicked in like we usually found some when someone decided to set up camp, and showing none of the telltale signs of having been pried open or even inexpertly picked. I paused then, my stomach twitching nervously as I pulled out my cell phone. No signal. That only made me feel more anxious, both because I could not tell anyone what was going on and because I had never had cell phone issues out there before. Still, I was wasting time and giving whoever was inside a chance to prepare, which was almost always a mistake. Pulling out my baton, I flicked it out and raised my flashlight to eye level as I nudged the front door open with my foot.